Dr. Dare, you're up next too.
Thank you.
To tell us about information regarding grant money that Raleigh Public Schools will receive from Volkswagen Trust. It will enable us to purchase 3 new buses, and the grant money will provide for 25% of the cost of each bus.
So let me give you a little bit of background on this program. Volkswagen Trust, go ahead, Myra, if you would. 2015, Volkswagen admitted to using their software to change emission results on vehicles, Volkswagen and Audi vehicles. So American consumers during that time period that was affected by this purchased 590,000 vehicles. Missouri's share of that was 7,500 vehicles. So of the $2.9 billion settlement that was reached, Missouri's share of that is roughly $41 million. So those funds are going toward air pollution control measures, emissions control measures. They're appropriated by the legislature annually. Volkswagen is providing a share of those funds annually for the next few years. That hasn't been hard and fast designated, but the legislature has appropriated the funds for this year. $1.474 million. $1 million for bus replacement, school bus replacement. $474,000 was set aside for financially disadvantaged schools. We do not qualify for that. Those were designated by the Department of Natural Resources. DNR used those funds as matching grant funds for federal dollars, which was very appreciated, and I think a wise move on their part. So it upped the total available funds for this year to just over $2.1 million. So the designated funding was for 79 buses for 45 school districts. And again, we mentioned 25% funding per approved bus. I'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that. So with the assistance of our transportation department, and I would like to thank Loretta and Scott and the mechanics, they had to get quite a bit of information together for us to get this grant application in. They did a great job with that. But we got that sent in October. And I'd also like to thank Rodney Bourne and John Butts with RMU in the city. We were getting bits and pieces of information about the grant, but they've also applied for pieces of the grant, and we're getting additional information. So their communication with us was very helpful for us to know when things were due and additional information that was out on the websites that we weren't necessarily seeing. So we appreciate their help, and I do believe they have applied for some things as well, and I don't know their approval status, but we certainly wish them the best of luck too. So all the approved applications that were sent in that met all the requirements, had all the required components, were put into a random lottery drawing. And initially, Raleigh Public Schools was second on the alternate funding list. We did not make the first draw. But some of the schools that applied for funding apparently either didn't understand the process or did not have the funding set aside for this fiscal year. I think they were thinking maybe it was next year. And so some of the schools denied their funding, and that enabled us to be bumped up the list. So the structure of the grant, we have to replace... You don't like our proposed bus?
I'm not sure the emissions on that one.
Right? So we're replacing 95 to 2006 model buses, full-size buses. They must be currently in operation, and they must be destroyed. So we had to think carefully about which buses we wanted to submit to the program because they will come out of our fleet. In exchange for that, 2017 or newer, what we're actually proposing to you will be 2020 model buses. That's where we are in the bid cycles at this point. They have to be similar size and purpose for the ones that are being replaced. We follow our normal procurement processes. This is a rebate program, so the district will be obligated to purchase the 3 buses outright, but then DNR has told us that within 30 days they will refund us back the amount for the grant. The key to all this is it cannot expand the fleet. So for every bus that we purchase, we must take one and permanently disable it. Permanently disabling the buses. And so I put this one in here because this is legitimately what has to happen. The bus has to be cut in half, at least from the frame, and the engine has to have a hole knocked in it. That's the only way they accept that the bus has been permanently disabled. So our timeline, hopefully with your approval tonight, we'll start our bid process and get those back in. The purchase order due by January 31st is a grant deadline. Our hopes would be to have our purchase order out by January 1, to try to stay about 30 days ahead of that timeline. Right now, school buses are on a 12 to 14-week turnaround, so it'll be April probably before we would receive any buses. Scheduled demolition of our replacement buses. We are using the buses that we're proposing to demo, so we would probably continue using those through the end of the school year. That would avoid confusion, not have to renumber, those kind of things. So as soon as school is out, we'll have that scheduled so we can get those demoed. We have to take pictures of the demolition, take pictures of the engine blocks, the code numbers, the tags, all those things to submit with our paperwork for
It's a fundraiser
documentation.
happening here.
Yeah, right? Bash the bus kind of
What's
thing,
that
yeah.
gonna cost? What's it gonna cost to demo a bus?
We should be able to scrap those, and we'll actually get a little bit of funds back. That fund does have to go, those funds have to be shown on our books of going to them.
For getting rid of them and not
Because
being
it's,
able to
because it's
share them?
emissions control, and so the only way to guarantee that those aren't putting out bad emissions is to take them off the road.
So we would typically surplus buses, sell them for $500 to $1,500 on
Right.
gov deals. And we would be buying 3 to 5 buses a year per the normal cycle, so we're just a little ahead of that.
Good.
That's probably what you're gonna say next.
That's
on the
what I was gonna
slide,
say
yeah.
next. Yeah,
So
that's
I
fine.
apologize.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
As soon as I said that, I said, why are you talking? Just let him
It's
finish.
okay. You feel free.
Just forget it.
So in summary, so we have been approved for the 3 replacement buses. The award is for 25% of the total cost, up to a maximum of $22,000 per bus. That should not be an issue. The buses we've been buying will fall right in that price range. And as Dr. Zales was mentioning, while this is currently outside of our budget for this year, it would be a reasonable thing to take advantage of the grant funds in preparation for next year. It would just be cost savings to the district, so. Any questions about that?
Do we have other buses that would qualify if they repeat this next year?
So in 3 was the maximum, and in getting the award this year, we are ineligible next year.
Okay.
So I don't know beyond that. That's as far as they've gone with it.
So it's a 25% coupon.
It's a coupon. That's exactly right.
The biomass boiler,
Biomass
one of the great failures of my life. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think it was a success. We don't have one.
Those are some long and informative meetings there. Yeah. Okay, anybody want to, you feel like their motion to purchase these 3 new buses and get that grant money? The motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, thank you for that information.
Thank you.